Have you seen Lian Li's Edge power supply units? These are uniquely designed power supplies with an L shape to them and a built-in USB hub, fairly unique and nicely innovative, which reminds me of Corsair's RM Shift power supplies, which had the connectors mounted on the side. This interesting design meant that you could run the cables out of the side and easily manage them throughout the case, making for a much neater finish. The Edge power supplies might be even more superior though, with those side-mounted connectors and the USB connections too, and I'll get to that in a second. But what this means is that with the right case, for example the NZXT H7 Flow RGB that you can see here, you can install the power supply and then plug the cables in afterwards. Normally I'd recommend plugging your cables in beforehand because it makes life a lot easier, but here you can access the ports when you need to. It also comes with individually sleeved premium cables and a lot of them. There are a lot of cables included, so you should be able to use it throughout your build really easily. There are also very nice cables with individual sleeving and cable combs built into them. This means that when you plug them into your system, you can easily neaten things up by simply maneuvering those cable combs along the cables and therefore adjusting the overall finish of the cables and making them much more aesthetically pleasing, neater and tidier throughout your build. This makes life a lot easier with a lot less hassle with plastic cable ties and messing around with that sort of thing. It also has other connectors in it like this SATA power connector with multiple connections very close together, which is pretty handy for things like Lian Li's various different fan controllers. If you're putting loads of fans in your system or a variety of fans and strimmers, for example, you can easily plug this cable in and connect up multiples of them in sequence and with ease. The other thing that makes this power supply particularly appealing is the built-in USB hub. So this means that you can plug in multiple devices. So let's say you've got two Lian Li fan controllers. You've then got two USB connections that you need to plug into your motherboard. If you don't have enough ports on your motherboard, you'd usually have to buy a separate USB hub, but here you can plug them into the power supply unit. You can put 4 connectors in here, and therefore 4 different devices. But you can also use splitters in the first 3 ports, meaning you could technically put 7 different USB devices into this power supply, connect them all up, and then run the single cable from the power supply to your motherboard, which makes it possible to add in multiple fan controllers, RGB controllers, maybe all-in-one pump has a USB connection on it as well. You can connect them all up to your power supply, then run this signal cable from that directly to the motherboard. This means you're not spending money on an additional hub for your case, but also it's not taking up as much space, and the cable management can all happen at the back. So it's a lot neater at the front and you're using fewer ports on your motherboard. Now this power supply also comes with multiple 8-pin PCIe power connectors, which again are nicely designed with individual sleeving, cable combs and more. They're also clearly marked with power supply unit on one end and PCIe on the other, so you can see where to plug them in relatively easily, although I have done a wiring guide on it in case you're curious and want to know more. But this means that you can also connect up things like the Lian Li TL LCD fan controller, which requires a 6-pin PCIe power adapter, and you still have enough, in theory, to run to your graphics card with relative ease, unless of course you're using one of those insane adapters from NVIDIA which requires 4 connections to go into one, where you'd need to plug that into your graphics card and then multiple cables into it. However, you don't need to do that necessarily with this power supply. You can abandon this horrible thing in favor of the 12-volt high power connector, which is included instead, because who wants all the mess of multiple cables running to the front of their case when they could just use a single connector? This nicely designed cable offers 600 watts of power and can potentially be used to power up to a 4090. You can plug it in with ease to the 12-volt high power connector on the right-hand side and then run it through to your graphics card and run that much more efficiently than having multiple cables. So it's much neater, much easier, and much better looking, and naturally has all those cable combs on it as well, so you can keep it nice and tidy. Now the end result here is a really easy to install power supply that makes life a lot easier with thin, easy to manage cables that can be easily negotiated into the various channels in your case and tied down, and then you can just shut the door with ease. Now I found that this makes it really easy for cable management, but also that the end result looks really clean. But the highlight here is definitely the flexibility of using the USB hub and being able to plug into the ports after you've built it into the case. The end result is a very nice looking power supply and a very nice looking system where the connectors on the front are basically hidden. Everything's nice and neat, and you can create a great looking build with it. What do you think of this PSU? Would you be using it in your system? Let me know in the comments down below, and thanks very much for watching. You've made it right to the end of the video, you brilliant legend you. If you've enjoyed it, click that subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, and drop me a comment down below if you've got any questions. If you really enjoyed it, consider joining the channel and see the benefits of doing so. Check out these other videos. You might well find them interesting or useful. And most importantly, have a great life.